In the tranquil summer of 1960, 4 teenagers set off for a camping trip at Lake Bodom, picturesque site in Espoo, Finland. Seppo Boisman, Nils Gustafsson, Mila Björklund, and Anja Mecki were looking forward to a weekend of fun and relaxation by the water. Little did they know, this serene setting would soon become the backdrop for one of Finland's most notorious and perplexing murder mysteries. The evening of June 4th started with the typical activities of camping, setting up tents, preparing a campfire, and enjoying each other's company. As night fell, the sounds of nature enveloped the campsite. Unbeknownst to the campers, a sinister presence lurked nearby. In the early hours of June 5th, a brutal attack shattered the peace. 3 of the teenagers, Seppo, Mila, and Anja, were bludgeoned and stabbed to death while they slept. Nils, the sole survivor, was found battered and unconscious outside the tent. The next morning, 2 young boys out birdwatching stumbled upon the gruesome scene. The campsite was a tableau of horror. A tent, slashed and blood-stained, lay collapsed under the weight of the victims' bodies. Nils, though severely injured, managed to provide a disjointed account of the attack, but his recollections were hazy and fragmented. The news of the murder spread rapidly, plunging the peaceful town into shock and fear. Local police were baffled by the sheer brutality and apparent randomness of the crime. Tent, slashed from the outside, suggested a frenzied attack. Blood spatter analysis indicated a vicious struggle, yet no clear motive emerged. The lack of witnesses, combined with Nils's inconsistent testimony, made it difficult to piece together a coherent narrative. Early theories ranged from a botched robbery to a crime of passion, but nothing fit perfectly. Attention quickly turned to Nils Gustafsson. As the sole survivor, he became a person of interest. Despite his injuries, which included a concussion and a broken jaw, some investigators suspected he might have been involved. His shoes were found hidden some distance from the tent, and his memory of the events was suspiciously murky. However, the severity of his injuries seemed to counter the theory of self-infliction. The community was divided, with some convinced of his guilt and others adamantly defending his innocence. As the investigation dragged on, several leads emerged, only to dissolve into dead ends. Witnesses reported seeing a blond man near the campsite. His identity remained unknown. Another theory involved a group of foreign construction workers who had been in the area, but no concrete evidence linked them to the crime. A local man, known for his violent tendencies, was briefly considered a suspect, but he had an alibi. Each lead, promising at first, eventually fizzled out, leaving investigators frustrated. Over the years, numerous theories about the Lake Bodom murders have surfaced. Some believe the crime was the work of a serial killer, given the methodical nature of the attack. Others suggest a personal vendetta, with one of the victims being the primary target. A more outlandish theory proposes a supernatural element, inspired by local folklore and the lake's eerie reputation. Despite the plethora of hypotheses, none have provided the definitive answers sought by both authorities and the public. By the late 1960s, the case had grown cold. With no new evidence or breakthroughs, it was relegated to the archives, a chilling, unsolved mystery. The families of the victims, devastated by their loss, were left with more questions than answers. The Lake Bodom murders became a dark legend in Finnish culture, a symbol of unresolved horror that haunted the national consciousness. Decades later, in the early 2000s, modern forensic techniques offered a glimmer of hope. DNA analysis and advancements in crime scene investigation prompted a re-examination of the evidence. Nils Gustafsson was arrested in 2004, reigniting public interest in the case. However, after a high-profile trial, he was acquitted due to lack of conclusive evidence. The acquittal only deepened the mystery, as it seemed the true perpetrator would never be found. Today, the Lake Bodom murders remain an enigmatic chapter in Finland's history. The serene beauty of the lake stands in stark contrast to the violence that occurred there. As time passes, the hope of finding definitive answers dims, yet the case continues to captivate the public imagination. The story of those fateful events at Lake Bodom is is a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the most idyllic facades, a noir tale that defies resolution and continues to intrigue, horrify, and perplex.